Hello, this is Adrian from Jazz Karen Astrology, and I am going to give my perspective of this full moon in Aries. It happens tonight at 11:47 p.m. on the East Coast, and you can adjust to wherever you are. It'll happen tomorrow, early tomorrow morning for some people in the world. Um, and so let me pull up the chart and we will get right on it. All right. So as you can see, there is a bunch of planets up here in the 10th house because different places of the world will have different um, houses being lit up. We won't discuss the houses at this time. I'm just going to discuss the energy of the signs and the planets. Um, Okay, sun and moon. So if you remember from a couple of weeks ago when we had the eclipse, which was at the 29-degree mark of Virgo, we were talking about um, really ending the energy of seeing ourselves as imperfect. We were letting go of that energy because that's a paradigm that I mean, it has been handed down for a very long time, and it hasn't been beneficial for all the people on the planet. And so we're coming to a place now where we are experiencing in our reality what happens when we see people as imperfect, as less than. Um, this dehumanizes human beings, and then for whatever reason, we can cause them harm. And this couldn't be farther from the truth. And so I'd like to discuss what I think is happening in these energies. As you can see, I'm going to jump down here and talk about Mercury first, because Mercury is our perception of reality. It's how we gather information about our surroundings. And it's a perspective, the perspective of, for example, for me here, it's warm. Um, it's a little bit cloudy, but let's say it's humid. So it's humid, but that is my perspective. Somebody in Alaska may not think that it's humid. So it's just like wherever anybody is or what their experience is tells what their perspective is. So everybody has a different perspective of reality. And perspective can be, it's like Mercury rules Gemini. It also rules Virgo. And the perspective that we take in for Virgo gives us this way of interpreting and using the reality. Let me rephrase that and let me just step back a moment. So, this Mercury is the energy of having all these different perspectives. There's always something hidden, something that's on top, something that we don't know. It's about knowing, and it's also communicating this information. And so in Virgo, it's how we take in the information and what we sort it, fact from fiction. Is this information true? Is it not true? Um, and with Mercury at 0 degrees of Scorpio, what's happening is our mind has being brought to these deep, intense emotions. These are like the residue, these feelings that we have that are associated, they're like the lingering feelings that are associated with the energies that we are letting go of, these Virgonian energies, which is shame and guilt and blame and just this negative energy, the shadow energy that we can let go of now, because the opposite energy of Virgo is like forgiveness. Forgive ourselves. Okay, we got angry, we felt guilty, all of these things. But when these emotions stay down in the bottom and don't get looked at, they just linger and they become this unconscious, subconscious um, energies that really guide us underneath our consciousness. We don't actually realize. We get triggered by them, and then we have these actions. We do things that we don't want to do. We know we don't want to do them. I hate getting angry, but I get angry frequently. And it's because there are these subconscious triggers that are underneath the surface. And so by bringing our minds, this Mercury energy, to these subconscious triggers and communicating them with another person, we can help to alleviate the attachment that it has on us. And we also see that Mars is here. Mars, this is the acting really on these subconscious emotions. And so you see Mercury is closing. Mars can also be like acting on these empowerment. And I think that as we dig up these old energies, that we can bring them to the surface, they lose their power on us, and then we can act from a place of empowerment, which is ultimately our goal. Both Mars and Mercury are square to Pluto. They're on a third quarter square, which is where we are breaking free from a belief structure that has really held us in this place of feeling either guilt or shame, where we blame external other people for issues that we've been dealing with, and all of this. We're uncovering that, exposing it, and trying to heal from it, really breaking free from the hold that they have over us, which allow us to do the underlying purpose of our journey right now, which is to break free from the conditioning that we've had. And this being seeing ourselves as less than perfect is part of the conditioning that we carry. Okay, let's go back to Mercury for a minute. I'm going to click on Mercury because here we see an inconjunct, and I think this, sorry, a finger of God or Yod. And what this does is give an inconjunct is a blind spot that causes crises. We just don't see it, but we are experiencing the result of this not knowing. It's like bumping into a wall that you can't see, and it's causing distress, but we need to adjust the way that we are doing something to be able to alleviate the intensity, the crises. And so Mercury is the point here. This is the perspective. The perspective that we have held have really caused us crises. This perspective of guilt and shame and blame have caused us to feel, you know, um, yeah, it's caused us to feel just not good enough. And it's the it's like this energy that we don't actually see, that we can't be free and that we can't create a reality for ourselves that we're looking for, because this is these hidden emotions have been holding us back, and we don't actually see that, but we do experience the result of it. And so there are two kinds of inconjuncts. There's the um, kind that acts like Virgo, where we have to internally change, and there's one that acts like Scorpio, where we make a change externally. We act differently. And so between Neptune and Saturn, this is the energy where we're dissolving this sense of self. This we are transcending a sense of self, and Saturn says that we are accelerating, both are retrograde. So we are accelerating this journey, this energy to transform ourselves. And really, we are becoming our own parents. We are becoming our own authority about what the reality is and crystallizing that part of the dream that we carry. We have the ability to create it once we let go of this idea that we aren't good enough. And I think that is, yes, this one is the external, the Scorpio type. The Mercury to Uranus, and this is about breaking free from these thought process patterns. And this causes it's the thought process of not feeling good enough that we're breaking free from this residue that is going to shift our consciousness. And it requires us to think differently, to think about ourselves differently. And the way that we do this is we communicate these places where we feel shame, where we feel blame, where we feel guilt with somebody that we trust that can help us, because speaking about it helps us to relieve the tension and helps us to heal from it. The boomerang point is Chiron in this case, and this is the release valve. Just show up as your true self. It's this guilt and shame and blame really allow us to um, have a skewed perspective of who we are. And if we can just show up in our true sense of self, even with our imperfections, this is helps us to heal from that wound. So now I'm going to go back to the whole chart. I want to show you about the moon and the sun because that's why we're here. This is a full moon in Aries. This is where we are learning to become secure within this true self. And we're going to bring this true self into our relationships. So, because it is through the relationships that we have that we actually see who we are. Relationships are the mirrors to ourselves. And so the reaction, the response that we get from the other alerts us as to how we were received. And we can determine whether we want to change our behavior, change the way we're communicating, all of that based on the reflection. So whenever we're dealing with oppositions or when we're dealing with Aries and Libra, we're always going from self to other and back to self again so that we can determine how we want to move from there. In the sign of Libra, where the sun is shining its light at this time, we're shining the light on the way that we interact with the external. This is our relationships. This can just be even with the outer world, we're do we drop trash on the ground, for example? This is a relationship that we have outside of ourselves. And it's also very reflective of the inside of ourselves. And so, but mostly it is through the relationships with people that are the reflection. It's where we will get the feedback. And so in Libra, it's about listening. It's about listening because in Libra, it's not balanced. We're learning to get the balance. So we're experiencing extremes. And it's about what's included, who we include into our worlds, who we exclude from our worlds. It's about trying to find a balance. We're not going to get along with everybody. We're wanting to get along with, the people that align with us. And we're learning to discover Moon in Aries who we are. And we're learning in a new way because we've been in one way and that way is over. We're not living in shame, blame, and guilt anymore, but we have to learn a new way to live. And I think that's what's really important about this opposition. I do want to talk about Jupiter because Jupiter is about our inner truth. Jupiter is linked to the right brain. It's about how we have an inner knowing, not what is based on the external uh, truths, somebody else's truth, but what comes from within us. The way that I have come to understand this Jupiter archetype, this is like the left brain that can only take in information from the five senses, and then the right brain, which takes in information from a completely different place. The inner knowing is this inner intuition, and I believe it comes directly from the Pisces archetype. Um, Jupiter and not Jupiter, sorry, Neptune, which rules Pisces, and Sagittarius, which rules Jupiter, are square to each other. They they have a connection that is of this inner knowing. And it's interesting as we come into this reality now. I've been talking about this a little bit, where it's so hard to determine what the reality is outside of ourselves. Everything we have the ability to manipulate the external. I thought about something Jeffrey Wolf Green was saying as he would describe um, the Pisces archetype, which is it's like being in a rowboat in the middle of the ocean on a very foggy night. You can't see any direction from where to go. That what happens is an inner place opens up that gives you an intuition of which place to move. And I think about that a lot as the outside world is getting so hard to trust as to what is actually happening that we really are turning inward. And that is what I believe this Jupiter in Cancer is about. Our inner self, learning to trust and be secure with our own intuition is really what's important here. As you can see, it's an opposition to Pluto. This will help us. Another opposition, which is a back and forth. We're trying to the extremes of breaking out of our conditioning and following our intuition. We have not been conditioned to follow our intuition. So this is an extreme, a back and forth, as you swing back and forth like a pendulum to try to get into a balance. And it's trying to, then let's see, let's click on it. There. Yeah, it's trying to Neptune, it's trying to Saturn, it's trying to the North Node. And so this is about like, it's like putting into practice this energy of following our intuition. It's like integrating it into our reality. And it's also square to both the sun and Venus, which is really interesting. Third quarter square to the sun, where following our own intuition is to break away from the belief structure of our external world and really follow our own when we're dealing with our relationships. We're really learning to trust ourselves and learn to interact with the external world a little bit differently. where we are equals in our relationships, because that to me is what's important. Like we're all very different people. We all have strengths, we all have gifts, we all have places where we struggle. It doesn't make one person better than the other. Each person that is on the planet has a special gift, and nobody's special gift is exactly the same. And if everybody is stepping into their true selves and exercising and being authentic with their special gifts, the world, in my opinion, will be in some sort of a balance, it'll be in a harmony, much like the external world with all the different organisms that the earth lives in a balance. And I think that we reflect that into the outer world. We're part of the world, and we've been living from a different point of view, this old Virgo point of view, and I think that's what's changing. So we are now learning to experience life from a very different perspective, and we are learning what that energy is about. I think I want to talk about one more important alignment here, and this is the Venus and the South Node conjunction. And this is about valuing ourselves, our own sense of value. So Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. And while we were using the Virgo archetype in the way that we're has ended, where we are looking to the outer world to determine our place in the world and if we need improvement or if we are even able to improve ourselves, that energy is gone. And while the eclipse was happening and a really strong energy, uh, a portal, really a doorway opened up to let that go. At the same time, Venus had just moved into Virgo and to really begin a new way of discerning reality, Virgo, of taking what information to take in, what information to let go of. Now, Venus has crossed over the South Node, the old way, and is beginning a brand new way of discerning reality. Now, I've been talking about the deacons for a little while, and I'll just give a little piece of information about them. So the first deacon, the deacon is 10. It's a form of the word of 10, deck. And basically, what it means is that every sign can be divided into three groups of 10, 30 degrees per sign. So the first decan of Virgo is Virgo, the second decan of Virgo is Capricorn, and the third decan of Virgo is Taurus, which is interesting because Venus rules Taurus. And so basically, what we left behind was Venus working from the Libra point of view, and now Venus is working from the Taurus point of view, where we're learning to value ourselves different, where we are internalizing a different perspective of the way we are, of who we are, and of our place in the world, and how we get our needs met and how we relate to other people, and most importantly, how we relate to ourselves. If we are relating to ourselves with guilt and shame, we probably aren't being the best to ourselves. And since this is a new cycle, we are learning to relate to ourselves in a very kind way, taking care of our needs, drinking enough water, being kind to ourselves. This is the energy, and the way we treat ourselves is the way we treat our relationships, because they are one and the same, energetically. So, And we see that Venus is eventually going to be closing towards the sun. And so it's a closing balsamic balsamic energy here where this old way is closing out and we're really beginning this new way to relate in an energy with other people where we are finding equality and where we can really take charge of our inner sense of self and our intuition and um, our personal value. We're learning to trust ourselves. We're learning to explore who we are because in this new way, we're we don't know. So like I said in my written moon report, this is the time to be making mistakes. This is the mistake, do what is spontaneous and instinctual from within you. And, your relationships are going to bounce off back to you, reflect back to you what it is, how that affects the external, and you can make your adjustments from there. But, this is a shift in perspective. And it's a shift in how we are evolving. Ultimately, we are moving toward our sense of authenticity, our true nature. And we have to discover who that is. So, yeah, I can't really think of much more that I want to say about this moon. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you want a more detailed version of where I really sat down and thought about each thing, each alignment in detail, I have a Substack account and I write a pretty detailed moon report. And I will put the link for my Substack account below in the comments. And also, if you're interested in understanding how these alignments are affecting you in your own birth chart, please do reach out. I will also put my website in the comments below, and I'd love to look at your chart. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I really hope you all have a happy and productive new moon in Aries, and I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Take care.